Hello everyone. Today we're going to make a keto cake called Drunken Cherry. This is my favorite cake. In general, I love Drunken Cherry. I haven't made it very often lately, but I do make this keto version frequently because the classic Drunken Cherry is made with flour and sugar and isn't really that healthy. But this cake you can eat a lot of. You just have to keep up with making it. So this cake has really caught on in my home. I treat my friends to it and tell there's no flour or sugar in it. No one believes me. That's how delicious it is. It's even tastier than my classic Drunken Cherry recipe. That's why I make it with enthusiasm. I recommend it to everyone. Let's start with the cherries. To make this cake, you need to prepare the cherries. She must be drunk. She must, so to speak, have time to get drunk. So you'll need half a kilo of drunken cherries, or 400 grams will do as well. Here's how I do it. You can use a glass jar with a lid or just a container like this and put the cherries in. I pour vodka over them. You can use cognac or rum as well. I make mine with vodka. And to be honest, I think about 5 batches of cherries, half a kilo each, have already gone through here. So I just pour it in. I don't add anything else. No sugar. Well, obviously I don't add sugar, and I don't add erythritol either. That's how I leave it. You can keep it in the fridge or just leave it on a kitchen shelf. It will sit in the vodka. Then, before I start cooking, I strain the cherries in a colander so they drain completely. And the cherry, well, drunken syrup, I pour back in here. Then I put the cherries back in the fridge or on the shelf. And once again, the cherries infuse until the next time. How many days does it need to marinate? Well, at least overnight. To get that really good flavor, overnight. But mine sat for a week. It's really quite boozy and it's very tasty. Naturally, if you're making this for children, just use fresh or frozen cherries. Just squeeze them and that's it. No alcohol. But we're making drunken cherries for adults. So I'm letting the cherries sit so that all the juice drains out. What needs to be done next? Let's start by making the cake layer. We'll be making the cake layer with almonds. So, for a 20 centimeter diameter pan, I'll need 5 eggs. That's the standard amount. Add a little salt, and instead of sugar, I'm using erythritol. 3 tablespoons, just like that. 1, 2, 3. Oops. Now we start whisking. Once the eggs are well beaten, add the chopped almonds. I usually buy it already ground. Add 15 grams of baking powder and 2 heaping spoonfuls of cocoa, good quality cocoa. Now I mix it all together. Just use a low speed so the cocoa doesn't fly all over your kitchen. So, take a mold with a diameter of 20 centimeters and line the bottom and sides with parchment paper. Pour in our prepared nut cake batter. By this time, the oven should be preheated to 180 degrees and thoroughly heated. Let it preheat for at least half an hour. Cover the top with foil so the cake doesn't burn and turns out a bit fluffier. It bakes for about 35 to 40 minutes. Check with a wooden skewer to make sure there's no wet batter left. Our nut sponge cake is ready. It is fully baked through. Now remove it from the pan. I take it out of the pan so it cools down faster. Remove the parchment from the sides and leave it like this on the kitchen table to rest. Well, let it sit for a while. Of course, I don't wait until it's completely cooled, but at least half an hour. While the sponge cake is cooling, let's prepare the cream and start with the chocolate. For keto cakes, you need to use chocolate that is 90 to 99% cocoa, no less. Because if the percentage is lower, then it contains sugar, and we don't need sugar. So I took 1 chocolate bar, 100 grams. If you want, you can add 2. Then it will be super chocolatey, but at least 1 bar, 100 grams. Add butter and cream to the chocolate. Start melting the chocolate. You can do this on the stove or in the microwave. Just mix everything until it becomes a smooth mass. In just about a minute, everything starts to become nice and uniform like this. Stir it like this so the chocolate melts completely, then set it aside. It shouldn't come to a boil. As soon as all the chocolate has melted, I leave it like this to cool down a bit. By the time the chocolate cools and the cake layer cools, we'll be ready to whip everything together. I also squeeze the cherries a little more by hand like this, so there's as little moisture as possible in the cream. See how much juice comes out of them? So for the cream, I use 33% fat cream. If you can find a higher fat percentage, use that. 3 tablespoons of erythritol. Instead of sugar, whip it until it starts to thicken. When the cream has thickened, at this point, take the mascarpone and gently add it in, making sure to do so carefully. Now mix it together with the cheese. Add 1 tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa powder here and then slowly add it to the chocolate. Now mix everything together. Now the cream is ready. If you really want a much darker colored cream, then you simply need to add another bar of chocolate to the mixture in order to achieve that. But that's entirely up to your taste and preference. Now cut the cooled sponge cake in half. It can be just barely warm, but definitely not hot at all. In my own experience, mine is, in fact, just barely warm as well. I'll show you the inside now. Look at how great these nutty sponge cakes are. They're very tasty. Before continuing, I set aside a little bit of the cream, like this, without the cherries. See, just like that. Okay, well, I'll probably put off the third part. Now add the cherries to the remaining cream. Look how beautiful that is. Place the first cake layer down. On top, I put the mold, open it up nicely like this, and set it in place. I take parchment paper and line both sides with it. And notice I'm using one with high sides. The cake turns out tall, so any mold you use should be sufficient, really, no matter which one you choose. You can use the same one you baked in. All right, next, I assemble it. I really absolutely like this springform ring for baking. Now then, look, everything is perfect. Now add all the cream with the cherries in here. There's no need to soak the cake layers. As a quick note, these nut-based layers, particularly the ones with almonds, as you might expect, turn out to be very moist. So if you soak them, your cake might, in fact, actually end up falling apart. And that's why I don't soak them. Spread the cream very evenly so that there are absolutely no empty spaces at all. Make sure you've carefully spread it all out, just like this. Now take the second piece of cake, which is the other half, and I usually take the top piece and gently cover it with the bottom side facing up, just like this, making sure everything is nicely aligned. That way, the top comes out nice and even. To place it more neatly, you need to loosen the ring, like this. Now what do? Put the ring back together and press down in the center, like this, so it sits completely flat. Now put the remaining cream on top and spread it out like this. All this beauty needs to go in the fridge overnight. It should stay in the fridge for at least 6 hours. Not on the kitchen table, but in the fridge. It needs to soak, set, and hold its shape well. So the next day, we remove the mold. I took the cake out of the fridge. I didn't wait for it to warm up at all. I remove the ring and take off the parchment. The cake has set well and holds its shape nicely. Look at how beautiful it turned out. Now you can transfer the cake. While it's still cold from the fridge, it's easy to move it to any serving dish. So look, I just do this with my hands. The parchment is completely dry. Just like this, onto a plate or a platter. So I take a couple more pieces of dark chocolate, the same kind I used in the cake, and I grate them like this on the largest grater. I grate them separately on a plate because that way you can press against the table. It would be hard to grate them in the air. You get these beautiful little curls. Of course, you could also melt a chocolate bar and drizzle it on top. Well, that's actually what we usually do most of the time. But grating it like this is something we don't always do. But I like it. It turns out really beautiful. Take a look. So here we have Drunken Cherry. This is a keto recipe, shown in person. It's a truly delicious and healthy cake with absolutely no carbs, no sugar, and no gluten at all. Now let's cut it. Look how tall this cake turns out. It's very tasty, truly chocolatey. The cherry is really interesting. Let me try it now and describe it. In general, just look at how beautiful this is. What could be better than coffee in the morning and a delicious cake? A healthy cake. All right, let's try it. So, the cake layers here are nut-based and they're very, very tasty. I like using almonds because there isn't a strong, distinct nutty aftertaste. It turns out really great with almonds. Incredibly delicious. The cherry, the cream. You can taste the chocolate in the cream. The cream is rich and tasty. Honestly, this cake is really delicious. It's just so chocolatey. If you want even more chocolate, you can pour chocolate on top, but that would really be too much. Very tasty and filling. Be sure to give it a try. There are already several keto cakes like this on my channel. These are delicious recipes, especially when you can't really have sugar or gluten, but you really want something sweet. Keep these cakes in mind. Soon, a third recipe for a lemon keto cake will be released, which is also very, very tasty, so be sure to stay tuned. Subscribe to my channel and give it a like. Bye.